Good evening and welcome to the Galloway Township Board of Education meeting this St. Patty's Day, March 17, 2014. May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Avery?
Here.
Mr. Carmen?
Here.
Mr. Days?
Here.
Mrs. Evanson?
Here.
Mrs. Hallway?
Here.
Mr. Noor? Mr. Schweiner?
Here.
Mrs. Cordero?
Here.
Mr. Hubbard?
Here. At this time, I ask everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Madeline Avery.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. In accordance with Public Law 231, notice of this meeting was provided to the press, the current, and the Galloway Township Municipal Building on the 11th of January 2014. First item this evening is approval of minutes of February 14th, 2014, and the February 24th, 2014 minutes. Has everyone had a chance to read them? Any corrections? Can I have a motion to accept as presented?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? I abstain on the 24th.
Aye.
Duly noted. Thank you. Okay, at this time, for the public, we need to go into what's called executive session. That's a closed session of the Board of Education, not open to the public. And I'll read the resolution. Resolved that pursuant of Section 7 and 8 of the Open Public Meeting Act, at this public meeting of the Galloway Township Board of Education, the following subject matter is to be discussed in a session of the board closed to the public. Personnel. It is presently anticipated that the items mentioned in this resolution can and will be disclosed to the public as soon as possible according to the circumstances. Can I have a motion to go into closed session?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back as soon as we can. Get everything up for
Make anything
Everybody here that wants to be here? or-
you play anything in the background.
Good evening. I'd like to reconvene this meeting of the Galloway Township Board of Education. Let's start with reading and communications, please.
Thank you, President Hubbard, and good evening, everyone. The first item is a letter from Christopher D. Surf, Commissioner at the time, State of New Jersey Department of Education, approving a waiver request for observations that differ from the requirements of New Jersey Administrative Code. Everyone will remember that we put in a waiver to do 2 long observations instead of 3 shorts for tenured teachers, and that is the approval of that waiver. Resolution 2 is a letter from Ivo Papa, Chief Innovative Officer, State of New Jersey Department of Education, advising that the Galloway Township Charter School has been granted a renewal of 5 years with an extended probationary period of 1 year. Lastly, correspondence from Terry Dockery, teacher at Roland Rogers Elementary School, thanking the Board of Education, Mr. James Grumpy, and the school district for drafting and approving the Interstate Compact on Educational Opportunities for Military Children policy. And I actually have a handwritten thank you note from Mrs. Dockery.
Yeah, but you're
Certainly. To the Galloway Township Board of Education, I would like to thank the board for approving policy regarding the Interstate Compact on Educational Opportunities for Military Children. Also, a huge thanks to Jim Gruffy for drafting the policy. It is so rare to see a school district take an interest in the compact when not in direct proximity of a military installation. I am so proud and thankful to be an employee in the Galloway Township School District. I'm sure this policy will be of great assistance to our military families. Sincerely, Terry Dockery.
That's good. That's great news. Okay, presentations, please.
Yes, the first presentation I will be giving in its New Jersey School Performance Report.
Really good.
Thank you. The Board of Education and Public may recall that last year, the New Jersey Department of Education moved from a school report card format that had been in existence for many, many years to a different format that provided more information, particularly in the area of academic achievement. And so the report you're seeing this evening is the updated version of what I shared with you last year. So, the purpose of the school performance report, again, is to give more information both to school districts as well as other stakeholders, be it parents, the community at large. The idea behind the school performance report is to generate discussion. One of the things that the DOE cautions us against is looking at this as a summative ranking of schools. It's looking at different aspects of schools in comparison to the state and in comparison to what are called peer schools. The DOE also acknowledged that there are parts about school that aren't collected by the department or used in the report. And then 2012 was the baseline year for certain data in the report. So, as I mentioned, for different parts of the report, there are Galloway numbers and then how we compare to schools across the state, and then peer schools. And we are mainly familiar for years with the concept of DFG, or district factor grouping. Peer school is not the same as district factor grouping. In district factor grouping, there is in fact the district group, CD, and that is a set group that has the same members. In this peer school methodology, the lists vary from year to year, and the same schools may not be on each other's peer lists. And so basically, it looks at several different things, whether it's an elementary, middle, high school, or vocational school, and it looks at free and reduced lunch as a main stratification. It then, and I'm certainly not going to get into detail to explain this, statistics were a few years ago now, but it looks at three covariates. Again, the free and reduced lunch, limited English proficient, and special education. And the percentage of students in each of those categories applies the statistical formula and comes up with a list of peer schools for each school. I will tell you that some elementary schools in Galloway are on each other's lists, but all 4 elementary schools in Galloway are not all on each other's list. So, academic achievement is one of the main things, and it looks at ASK data in terms of school-wide and subgroups proficiency levels, the annual measurable objectives. These are the targets that are now under the ESEA waiver, the former NCLB. This is the kind of ASK data that I give you in other district test reports, especially when the prior presentation we looked at how all 4th graders did in language arts in Galloway. So, if we look at the NCLB progress targets, you may recall that there's a lot of emphasis on how did the subgroups do in meeting the targets. So for each school, I have listed which subgroups actually made the targets. You will notice that certain subgroups are in parentheses. That means that there were not enough students in the subgroup for the Department of Education to count the scores. Generally speaking, there needs to be 30 students in any given year for the scores to count. So for example, and I will use Arthur Rand at the top of the list, there were enough Black, Hispanic, and Asian students for the subgroups to count, and all 3 of those subgroups met all the targets. However, for American Indian, 2 or more races, or limited English proficiency, there were not enough students, and so the performance was not reported. So I'll just give you a moment to look at that. One of the things this does show you is that different schools have different subgroups that have enough children. I will also tell you that varies from year to year. Then what the state does is takes that academic achievement and compares it to the state and again this peer group. So you can see in the state comparison, we did have some instances where schools, and this is pure passing percentage, lag behind the state. However, in the peer group comparison, high or very high. I want to point out that all of these ratings are the same as the prior year or show improvement over the prior year. So again, this is looking at pure passing percentage. We then move into growth, and we've been doing a lot of discussion about growth. You may recall we calculate now, or we don't, the Department of Education does, a student growth percentile, this SGP, and it's on a scale between 1 and 99. And when we look at a school, we look at the median growth. On average, how did the middle child do? And if you remember mean, median, and mode, median is the middle score. So the state does the same thing. It looks at the overall median growth of the school and compares it to the state and compares it to the peer group. So here we see even better performance. Although we had some areas that were lagging, some schools that had some lagging in terms of passing percentage, every school is high, very high, or at the lowest average when compared with the state and when compared with the peer group. And our Department of Ed has been putting greater emphasis on this growth because it accounts for the fact that all students don't enter school and enter each grade level at the same point. And it looks to see from one year to the next, is growth being made in comparison with that child's academic peers, or here, a school's performance compared to the state as a whole and compared to what the state has identified as peer schools. The other big piece of the report is this college and career readiness. And at the elementary level, the only thing that is considered to be college and career readiness is chronic absenteeism. And the state defines chronic absenteeism, as you can see, a student who is not present for 10% of the year. It doesn't matter what the reason is. This is not about excused and unexcused absences. This is not about a child was sick or the family went on vacation and the child was truant. The child was either present or the child was absent. Any school where the percentage of children is greater than 6% who have more than 10% of the year absent is considered to not meet the target. And again, it's the only measure used at the elementary level. You may recall when I went around at back to school night, there were different board members at different meetings. One of the points I emphasized was the importance of school attendance. Most notably, because children who are in school perform better academically, but also because of this new measure from the DOE. So if you look, we do have some schools that do cross that 6% of chronic absenteeism. And again, there is a rank in comparison to their peers and in comparison to the state. We continue to do analysis about this. I can tell you that this summer, when we met as an administrative team, we looked at the procedures we have in place and really emphasized the need that when children are hitting those benchmarks, 5, 10, 15 days absent, that even if we know why the child's absent, and even if we consider it to be an excused absence, the letters have to be sent. If it's a situation where we don't feel it's legitimate, that is where we involve Keith Spencer, who not only looks at residency, but also looks at attendance. Based on the scores from last year, we still have some work to do in this area, And this is an area where we really need parents' help in ensuring that children are in school. At the middle school level, the chronic absenteeism is also used, and you can see we were over by a percentage point, and appear in state rank. The other measure, which is much more academic focused in and of itself, is participation of 8th grade students in algebra, and the state is looking for 20% of the 8th graders to be enrolled in algebra. We have 35% last year of our 8th graders enrolled in algebra. So we not only met, but we exceeded that percentage, and you can see our peer rank was very high, and our state rank was strong as well. I need to add that the overwhelming majority of those children go on to the next level of math in high school. So it's not like they're taking Algebra 1 and then most of them repeating it in high school. They are passing it. So when we look at all of this, what are we doing? Well, obviously, as we've talked before in terms of the academic achievement measures, be it the passing percentage or be it the growth, continuing to work with the Common Core, transitioning to PARC, and you'll hear more about both of those topics when Mr. Kelly joins us when we talk about the budget. We have in district been taking the state data and creating our own composites, and I really need to credit Michael Hinman and Betty Napoli and Hope Conrad, their Secretary of Health Senate, where we're looking at the comparison or correlation between the passing percentage and the growth percentage, down to the student level, to the teacher level, to the school level, and a lot of different ways we are cutting through that data. And we will continue to promote the importance of student attendance and address cases where individual students, really for no known excused reason, is absent. Obviously, a cold winter does not help any of this in all candor, between flu and other health issues, very cold mornings, etc. If you wish to see the school performance reports in their entirety, this is the DOE website, and you can actually look at them not just for Galloway, but for any school anywhere in the state. I should point out, I pulled the key pieces. There's a lot more information in the performance reports. I'll be happy to answer any questions, respond to any comments. President Hubbard.
Just out of curiosity, on the attendance, I noticed that Central School was 66% higher in absenteeism than, say, Reach Road. Is there anything we can attribute that to? I saw that they were the highest, but I mean, when you compare to a school that's almost a sister school, it was significantly higher.
Well, and are you talking in terms of like the peer ranking?
Right.
And President Hubbard, this is what I will tell you. We see the four schools as very similar. They are all not necessarily on each other's lists. Every school's peer list is different. There may be some similar schools and there may be some different schools. Now, we can say Reed's Road met the target of only having 6% absent,
Right.
while Smithville had 10% of chronic absenteeism.
Right.
I have not identified a specific factor. We received these performance reports about a month ago and need to work to see, can we figure something out? For example, I don't see one elementary school having more suspensions than another elementary school, because suspension does count. I am not aware of some factor that I can pinpoint, but obviously it warrants further discussion when we have schools seeing something different.
So suspension counts towards absenteeism?
If the child is not present in school, it counts. And I will tell you, we, especially the elementary, as you know from the monthly suspension reports, it's almost non-existent. But if a child is not in school, it doesn't matter what the reason, they have to be marked absent.
My question is, children that are chronically absent, because I know they're out there, they automatically without any valid reason for being absent, go on to the next grade?
We have a policy, Mrs. Avery, that says if a child is absent for more than a certain number of days, they can be retained, but we do not retain just because of that. If there's other reasons to retain the child, and what a pre-K to 8 district doesn't have, that a high school has, is credit completion and seat time, where students are required, say, to come in the summer if they miss a certain amount of time. I'm not aware of any of them. There may
No,
be.
I understand what you're saying. So feasibly, a student could miss 30 days of school and go on to the next.
That is, that's not feasible, I will tell you that has happened. And it's interesting that you bring that up. When
I mean, my thing is, in order to learn, you must be
I
present in
agree.
school. And I think maybe some parents need a little motivation in getting their students to school.
And we are working on that. One of the things that I try to look at, if you remember Keith Spencer's report, how much of Keith's work is about absenteeism. I believe we can be doing more on that side. I'm not letting Keith, he can only do what is requested. That is something that when you look at this, we need to go back and analyze how many requests for attendance officer assistant. Where did there happen to be children in that school that had some chronic illness? Or I'll give you another example. If a child is on home instruction, that does not count. Was the home instruction recorded right in the student management system? I mean, it's as simple as that.
I mean, I would like to, maybe take a look at the kids who just don't come to school.
Agreed.
And the parents that don't send them.
Agreed. We've taken a few to court. There are probably more we could take to court. Yes?
With Smithville School, our percentage of kids that are bused in versus walkers. So if I'm not mistaken, that's a big walking community. Am I right or wrong?
There are quite a few children who do walk there, Mr. Carmen, and that is one of the factors that I do think we need to look at each school. And every school has some walkers. I do not know off the top of my head the non-transported percentage, but there's an example where we could dig deeper and do a correlation. Is chronic absenteeism correlated with not being transported?
And that obviously falls on responsibility of the parents, etc. There's a lot of things that go into it. But I do know as time wore on, walking, tends to lead toward absenteeism. And then secondly, of the 35% that are taking Algebra 1, what's our percentage of pass-fail? Obviously, it's not asked there, but, moving forward.
I don't know the exact number. I am going to venture to say, I am not aware of anyone that fails. First of all, if they fall below a B, they go in a probationary period and then they have to bring the grade up. I can tell you, and I don't like to put a number, but I'm going to guess that at least 90% of the kids go on to the next level of math in high school.
Okay.
It is not a situation where we're putting in children that end up not doing well. There are very few children that get pulled out during the year, if any, and there is a very, very small number that end up repeating the class.
Okay.
Other questions?
I have one.
Yes.
What is the correlation, or has it been looked at, between letter grades on report cards and what we are hearing about tonight?
You must be sitting with Mrs. Napoli and Mr. Hinman. We do look at that as well. One of the things that most people realize is a report card grade also includes things like effort and participation and homework, where you could have your grade higher than, say, what your test average is, or your performance level. And that is where, at most grades in the elementary level, there will also be indicators where different skills are listed, and it is noted as whether the child is exceeding the grade level standard, meeting the grade level standard, performing below the grade level standard. One of the things that Mr. Hinman and Mrs. Napoli have worked with teachers on the last 2 years, and every year it has gotten, we believe, better and better, is to make sure that those indicators are truly about performance and then in rating those indicators, they don't have anything to do with effort. So for example, a child could have a B on the report card, but not have all 4s, meaning exceeding average, or even have all 3s. They could have some 2s, or things of that nature, and that gives a more complete picture at the elementary level. I don't know that they've run an exact correlation, but it is something we look at, because we'll invite children to, say, an intervention program, and the parent will say, but my child got a B. You know, why does my child need this extra help? And that's when we delve into the piece that the grade represents more than just pure academic performance. Other questions? Thank you. If it's okay with the board, you can all just stay where you are, and I'll invite Mr. Kelly to join me, and we'll go to the next presentation.
Troublemakers here.
I'm going to kick us off and then turn over to Tim. This evening's presentation, as you can see, is the preliminary budget for next school year. And as Mr. Kelly will explain, we have resolutions on the agenda related to this presentation because there is a due date to the county office. I need to emphasize there is a good month that this budget can still change. What have we been doing? Well, since Friday, or up until Friday, we previously presented twice to the board in front of the public. The board will likely recall that we did spend quite a bit of time at the retreat discussing priorities in the budget, and we received state aid, and Mr. Kelly spent lots of time applying it to the budget. This evening, we're giving you information. We can respond to questions and comments, but we do need to have the total budget dollars set before the meeting ends tonight. With that said, I'll turn it over to Mr. Kelly.
Okay, thank you. Just a historical perspective as far as revenues in the district, you'll see state aid, which is this line on the bottom here, and you'll see the tax levy, which is on the top here. You'll see state aid back in '89 was actually higher than it was even this coming year, and unfortunately, the only way to make up for that is to slightly increase taxes. That is, you see the line slightly increasing over time. Looking at some actual detailed numbers as far as historical, state aid in 2008-2009 was about $23.8 million, or a little more than that. State aid for this coming year will be $23,639,000. That's for the general fund budget, and that's in, actual dollars. There's no adjustment for inflation or other factors. So you'll see, in real dollars, we're still receiving $207,000 less next year than we actually received in fiscal year '8-9. As far as the local tax levies, some historical information here from 9-10, 10-11, 11-12, and 12-13, there's no change in the local tax rate for the general fund. 13-14, and 14-15 as far as what we're proposing here. If you average out each of these increases over the 6 years, you get an increase of about $438,000, $439,000, some of that per year, which equates to about 1.63% increase in the rate overall per year, if you look at that 6 years historical perspective. This only includes information for the general fund. Actually, if we included debt service, you'd actually come up with a number lower than this 1.63. And the reason for that is the district continues to pay down one of only 2 remaining bonds that are outstanding. So we continue to decrease the amount of taxes that we collect every year as far as debt. But that amount is set when a bond is proposed, so we don't look at that usually when we're doing general fund presentation. As far as efficiency standards, I'll go over briefly, because we have to do them also at prior meetings. The state looks at specific efficiencies on a number of areas to see how we compare with other districts across the state. And they come up with a set number and say you have to be within this range. But we actually meet all of the 7 efficiencies that
that the state looks at, which is rather unusual. I've mentioned that before. We did receive kudos from the executive county superintendent on our budget review letter for meeting all 7 of those factors. But you can see we spend less on support services, $4 less per student, much less on administrative costs, $239 less on a per student basis. Legal services as well as plant maintenance at $134. So as far as factors and these ratings, we want to be less on each of these areas. Where you want to be above, fortunately, we still are. Educational support staff, so not teaching or classroom teacher, but some of your support staff, whether it be nurses, library media specialists, and the like. We're actually above that by 5.5 students, which is a positive variance. Administrative personnel students were above by 27, 28, almost 28 students. And administrative personnel faculty were above by 42.8 faculty. Again, these are all positive variances that the state looks at when they examine our budget to see how we're performing this. Some of the areas where we try to save money and be efficient, because of our size, we're a larger district, we do our maintenance in-house, we don't have much of it outsourced. Some of the technical HVAC work becomes a little more complicated than electrical work that we don't have the proper licenses, we will sub out. But the majority of the work is completed in-house. Technical services, our IT department, we do substantially all of our IT work internally, and our group does a great job of that. Printing, as far as letters, letterhead, envelopes, all that's done in-house, as well as the print management system, which is managed by the IT department, as far as deploying toner all the printers in the classroom. Professional development, we have a number of staff that present to other staff, and some will actually go to an event and turnkey it to others. And then new this year, we started a shared services agreement with Port Republic for the cafeteria. It's not a huge relationship because Port Republic, by its nature, is rather small, but it is helping the cafeteria operation work towards break even. Government mandates initiatives, some of the things that we need to budget for and require to budget for every year that we don't necessarily get funding for from the state. The state did increase state aid slightly this year, and I'll go over that amount, but they did allocate a specific amount in that increase for park readiness. I believe it's the state trying to avoid a state mandate state pay issue. Again, it was $10 per student, and I can tell you that I know an iPad costs more than $10 per student, but that was the amount that was released by the state. So some of the items that we have to deal with our park, you've heard us talk about this over and over again, whether it's infrastructure, as far as the wireless, iPads, laptops, and the actual preparation for testing that's going to be coming up. Common Core standards, we have, over the past few years, fortunately upgraded all of our curriculum and are at the current standards. The teacher and principal evaluation, the board is well aware of the fact that this is the first year that all the teachers have received multiple evaluations from the administrators throughout the district. The district is using the Danielson framework as well as a evaluation software that we purchased. And then also CARE, which takes up more time than money as far as how we deploy it. Looking back and planning forward on the budget, I found this number pretty staggering when I plotted it, but in the past 3 years, so prior to this year, in the past 3 years, the district has deposited over $2.6 million into its capital reserve accounts. That's great because we're doing a number of projects that need to be done. We also need to remember that's money that would generally in the past have been used for other things. So we're doing what we need to do with some of our capital needs. We have some broad grants that we're moving forward with this year. But in just the past 3 years, we've deposited over $2.6 million into the capital reserve. The current year budget, as well as next year's budget, also have budgeted increases in the capital reserve of $750,000 for this year, and then an additional $450,000 for next year. When we reach June, the board also has another opportunity in June of 2014 when we close out the year, if sufficient balances exist to deposit additional monies into the capital reserve. And when we reach that point, we'll have to see if we do have enough. I do anticipate an amount being deposited this year. I do not know that it's as high as we've been able to contribute in the past 2 years. This summer and throughout the year, this year we've installed a new phone system throughout the district. When we struck our budget last year, we had actually planned for a phase-in. We had some money left over last year, so we decided to move forward and do a complete installation, which actually saved us money because we bought everything in months instead of these. We're meeting a lot of these increased costs, and I had the word none, but I had to change it to minimal to be correct. Assistance from the state. State aid this year increased just over $66,000 for 2014-15, and that represents 0.11% of the general fund budget. And again, we're very grateful for the amount of state aid that we have. I was glad it went up and didn't go down. But again, with a lot of these mandates and programs that we're implementing, they cost money. And $66,000 this year is due.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. So, Tim obviously shares with you a lot of the numbers and the data and information behind it. What is actually in the preliminary budget? Keeping all the programs and services that now exist, be they daytime programs and services, be they after-school activities. One of the things our board has been great about is keeping low to reasonable class size, and that is continued in this budget. Next year will be year 2 of the new math program in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And the 7th and 8th grade program is such a shift, in large part because of the rigor of the Common Core. Professional development needs to continue in every content area as it relates to the content itself and the state standards, in language arts and math in particular with the Common Core, as well as training related to different methodologies, questioning techniques, training that continues to relate with that last bullet in terms of the teacher evaluation rubric, principal evaluation rubric. We have continued to expand iPads and laptops. We did receive a $25,000 grant from the Ed Foundation to help with that, but there still is a significant amount of money in the budget for next year to continue to expand those purchases. And the primary thing is for students to be able to use them as part of their learning experience. The secondary, and you'll see this mentioned again, and Tim already mentioned it, is the PARCC assessments that will happen next year. Here's class size. This does have one minor change that Tim and I had to make some adjustments from the first time we showed this to you. You will see that numbers are still really, really good at the elementary level, as low as 18 students on average per class in kindergarten, and the highest, actually, the way the numbers fall, is in 4th grade. I want to remind you, this doesn't mean that every homeroom will have this number. This means that on average, this is the number, but we try to stay within those parameters of within a grade level at every school. The numbers are very similar. Two things we want to mention in terms of personnel in this budget. On the left, if I didn't get rid of it, on the left, you see 2 computer lab teachers. Presently, we have 1 full-time computer lab teacher at the middle school, and then the 4 elementaries share 2 people. It has been difficult to meet technology standards for students, much less ask those folks to support other teachers with technology when they are each going between 2 schools. When we met with the Board Technology Committee, this was one of our primary requests. So the tech standards exist for children, and this will enable students to receive more experiences with the technology teacher. Additionally, as we buy more iPads and laptops, we need teacher support at the building level on a regular basis, and this includes getting the students and staff members ready for the PARCC assessments, as well as the administration of those assessments. I should mention that we will be doing a pilot of the PARCC this spring, And in an upcoming board meeting, Marilyn Moore and Betty Napoli will be making a presentation about that. I should also mention that there is a mini version of the technology presentation that was given to the tech committee. We will be bringing that to a board meeting as well. So that's on the instructional side. On the non-instructional, and I'll emphasize school safety side, there is also money in the budget to add services of a district resource officer. We are looking at a police officer, possibly a class 2 officer, who would rotate among schools to provide police presence, to work with the administration staff and students to assist with special events. And I have been in communication with Chief Moran regarding the specifics of that. We're still working on that, but in the meantime, there is a line item in the budget to support that endeavor. And that is a recommendation that came out of our School Safety and Security Stakeholder Committee, and I do need to mention was also emphasized by the board at the retreat. On the, continuing in the non-instructional area, you'll see a lot of the kinds of things that are done each year on a rotating basis, whether it be concrete, carpets. You sometimes see something specific to a school, a fire alarm system. That school's turn and having the gym and stage done. You see something specific to Reed's with the modular. You do see a vehicle, and Mr. Kelly and I will both speak for the maintenance department, that we've been asking for this for several years and it keeps getting taken out. You can see the age of the vehicle, and as you can imagine, this winter overtaxed the vehicle that was already experiencing difficulty. And then, obviously, one of the highlights in big letters would be the replacement of 2 roofs, which would mean all 4 elementaries would be done, which would be a great thing. In the technology and communications angle, one of the other things talked about with the technology committee was new district servers and a lease agreement. Continuing to improve things like disaster recovery, the required filtering through the Child Internet Protection Act, as well as the software that does the required archiving. Projector bulb replacement seems like a small thing, but considering there's a projector in every classroom that generally gets used every day, it's a big ticket item when they add up. Upgrading our internet connectivity, and as we add more laptops and iPads, we also want an increased wireless access presence. And with that, we're back to numbers, so I'll turn it back to Mr. Kelly.
Okay. Up at the top line, you see the total general fund budget, which does not include any of our grants and does not include debt. So this is the total proposed expenditures year over year. You see a proposed budget of about $59.6 million, as well as the amount to be raised by taxes. It is upcoming in the slide, but I will note up front that this does include the request to use $450,000 in bank cap, which the board has available to it to use under the current budget cap law without having to go to the voters with any additional. The net valuation taxable, when this presentation was prepared, I did not have the new net valuation taxable for the township. And this actually is not necessarily better, but it allows more of an apples-to-apples comparison. I did, at about 5:30 this afternoon, receive an unofficial number for the new net valuation taxable. So I do expect that when we bring the budget at public hearing, we will have, I believe, the County Board of Taxation approved number for the new net valuation taxable district. And I'm expecting it to decrease, as I've said before, and I think the board understood that. But this actually gives you more of an apples-to-apples comparison, because if a net valuation taxable resets itself, you may see an increase in the tax rate, but you may not necessarily have any additional dollars raised by taxation. So this gives you an apples-to-apples comparison. So the rate per hundred is $8.11 to $8.46, so it comes out to about 3.5 cents. Penny on the tax rate equals about $352,000, and that's on the old net valuation taxable. So that's not the 2014, and it is not officially available yet. see the tax bills for an assessment at the old rate at $100,000 and $200,000. And then down here you see the amount of surplus that's being applied to the budget, which has been relatively consistent over the past year. What does this all mean? As we move into this initial approval, and again, we do have over a month before the final tax levy is struck. We're looking to maintain the class size that we have in the district, as well as a number of our district programs. We're continuing preparation for PARK, and that's the next big thing that the district is facing as far as managing this whole process next year. Finally, we're funding capital through the operating budget. When I first came, we had unfortunately 2 defeated bond referendums that we were unable to fund. They were defeated by the taxpayers. So we have projects, and fortunately we were able to secure a number of ROD grants for some of the projects that we have. The state's funding about 47% of those projects. But the balance is needed to be funded through the local operating budget. Tax impact on a home assessment about $200,000. And I put this asterisk because this is the old net valuation taxable, not the new. So anyone that has their new valuation for their home, it is, let's just say it's $200,000. It's a different $200,000. When we do have the new, if we have the official net valuation taxable, the new number for the public hearing, these numbers will obviously be updated for that presentation. Again, I mentioned before, the budget does include the use of $450,000 in bank cap. Raises about, on that, about $62 more per year. It's a tax rate of about 3.5 cents. Next steps. Tonight, we need to approve the preliminary budget. I did distribute the detailed budget to all the board members for their review. Please contact me if you have any specific questions, and I know we'll be holding some of our committee meetings to review some of the items in the budget as we move into final approval. But the budget is required to be submitted by statute by March 20th, which is in a few days. That's your approval that you're doing tonight that allows me to submit that to the county. We'll be meeting with the Executive County Business Administrator to review the budget. This happens on an annual basis and has not been scheduled yet. Because we have over a month before final approval, Lisa Spino, the Executive County Business Administrator, is currently reviewing all the budgets that need to be approved by the end of March, which are those districts that are either type 1 districts that have a board of school estimates or that did not move their elections. So there are 2 dates that she's working with, so she's getting that first. We'll discuss the budget at our upcoming regular board event meetings, so scheduled for the 24th of March and the 14th of April, as well as any budget committee workshop meetings that we may have in between those days. And then finally, the public budget hearing will be April 28th, and that's the last chance for any changes to be made, and the tax levy and rate will actually be set at that meeting by the board then. With that, we'll be happy to answer any questions or comments. I know the board just received the details tonight. You're not going to have any detailed budget questions. But if you have any questions on the presentation, we'll be happy to answer.
For the bank cap, can you remind the board how much bank cap we have available and what years that is going to sunset?
Yes. The board has, I'll round to the nearest $10,000. I believe it's about $880,000 in bank cap available. It's $879, $880. That is from 2 years ago. So the board, and we're proposing to use approximately half of that amount. The amount that is not used, assuming that we use that $450,000 this year, will be available for 1 more year next year. And at that point, if it is not used, it will sunset and will no longer be available. And that is the only, that one budget year is the only year that we have bank cap available at this point in time.
So this coming budget will not provide bank cap, the 1450.
Correct. The fact that we're using bank cap, we have one, we're going to cap, and then we're requesting to use an additional amount of the bank.
We have none from last year and none from
Correct.
the next budget.
Correct. And in preparing the presentation, there's a resolution that we have to include requesting the use of bank cap. And I had to reach out to a couple of districts because I got a number of answers that, well, we've never had to include that because we always go to cap.
The two bonds that we're paying on right now, when do they mature? When will they no longer be debt service to taxpayer?
I actually haven't bought it, so if you'd like, I can look it up. I believe the one bond sunsets in about 6 years. That's for the solar panels on the middle school. And then there's one bond that was refinanced that I believe goes on for at least 10 more years, but it's a minimal amount. That is the only debt.
I know when we were trying to put the referendum together, that was one of the things, when we got to a point,
Yes.
the debt would be, for the taxpayer levy would be less.
Yes, we have, and that's the debt that just ended, and then we have the middle school solar debt that's ending also. And the last meeting, the board actually canceled $169,000 into the debt service fund, so that's actually going to decrease the amount of taxes raised for debt next year. But then there will be that one remaining bond off the top of my head.
Okay.
And Tim, if you ballpark the two roofing projects, minus the wild grants, what's that number?
It's just over $2 million.
So,
After each roof is about $2 million apiece, so about $4 million for the total
so
project.
our Galloway taxpayers have to understand that those projects which need to be done are being paid for by their tax dollars because of the failed referendum. So everybody has to understand that that's a big chunk of change, and the taxpayers are footing the bill because I guess that's what they wanted to do.
Yes, now, we're not raising that amount of money in taxes this year. We've been able to save that in the capital reserve.
Okay.
But my point earlier, we haven't been able to do other things because we've been saving that money. Again, there is a deposit this year in capital reserve of $450,000, and that is also the amount of bank cap that Dr. Duke went to and I are requesting that the board utilize in this 15th.
Madam, I'd like to follow up. I think you're absolutely right.
I just want people to understand the big picture.
But if we didn't do it, we have schools with leaks
Right.
and potentially mold
I mean,
for years to come because we didn't have the money to pay
Well,
for it.
there's no doubt that the roof needs to be replaced. Roofs last 20 years. Okay, so it's just how the people that live here chose to
Pay for it.
pay for it. So I just want to make sure that people understand the reality of,
They chose to pay for it in 5 years as opposed to 15 years.
right, which is fine, but
That's
that's, right, and that, I mean, I have no problem with that. Well, I'm not going to say that, but you know what I mean? I just want people to understand the ramifications of, you have to replace the roof, how are you going to do it? That's all.
And Mrs. Daly, if I might say, when Mr. Kelly and I did some meetings and some board members were present, this is what some members of the public said to us, that at home, you save the money and you pay for it. And that is exactly what we are doing. And we're fortunate that because of the ROD grants, we're getting to move along a little faster, but we still need to save the rest by doing these deposits that Mr. Kelly's referencing. So we really do feel we have listened to the taxpayers and the folks who came to meetings and spoke to us at the time.
What's coming?
It is a 2% cap a year. You're going to have a maximum saving of around $600,000 a year. Which goes to our raises and everything else we have also. So it would have taken us years to save this money without your management of our financial thing and the right.
We try your best, sir. Thank you very much.
I heard it. I know you heard it. That was in Wallet. Thank you, Dr. Giaquinto and Timothy E. Kelly. Is there any public comment on the presentations that we've just seen and heard this evening? Okay. No. Thank you for the question. Let's move to superintendent's report, please.
Thank you, President Hubbard. The first item is the attorney's report. I will turn the agenda over to Mr. Cuccio.
Yes, thank you. Regarding student residency, a few things have arisen. I kept contact with Mr. Spencer at Township. Sunrise Bay Property Management has been hard to get information from. We're trying to, the school itself, and Mr. Spencer is trying to resolve any issues that arise in favor of taxpayers, so those children go to school are not supposed to as district. Stressing this matter to them, and by the way, back and forth, finally today, could put in my report, but today, the legal counsel from Sunrise Bay Private Management contacted me, and I explained to him, we have no problem like this with others. We're the only people that have this problem. And we're coming to some kind of agreement, I believe, I hope, to authorize release of information by the individuals themselves. I'm not trying to get information we're not entitled to the people, but we have to check these things out. So the district does get the right students in the district and pays for the right ones, not ones that shouldn't be. I'll resolve this in the future with Mr. Spencer and other individuals. Student matters due process, the legal matters before us at this time have not been handled by Mr. Hand and others in his office. Nothing disability rights. Mr. Kelly has kept you abreast of the status of the project for construction, and the personnel was discussed this evening in closed session. I, along with the superintendent, will keep the board informed of all progress in that and the status of that matter. Thank you. Questions?
Okay. Let's move to the next item. Thank you, Mr. Fuccio.
Yes, student enrollment as of the end of February 2014. In district, there are 3,346 students. If you add in special services, the various other private schools, home instruction, the charter school, and choice, you have 3,454 students. The out-of-school suspension report for February is also attached, as is the HIB report for the reporting period from February 20th through March 12th, 2014. There are no resolutions in the superintendent's report this evening.
Curriculum and instruction, please.
Yes, item 1 is a resolution to approve supplemental instruction extension of the student's school day per the IDP of the following student for the 2013-14 school year. The account number is listed, as is the student number. Resolution 2 is to approve homeschooling for the 2013-14 school year for the following student in accordance with Board Policy 6172. The school the child would attend, the student ID, the effective date, and grade are listed. Resolution 3 is to approve the summer theater program held at UTMS beginning Monday, June 30th through Friday, August 1st from 8:30 a.m. until 12:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday, except for Friday, August 1st, which is the performance date, and during the last week of the program, the hours are extended. By account, it should be noticed that this is the enterprise account of community ed, where parents pay a fee for their children to participate. Resolution 4 is to approve the Summer Pops music program held at Galloway Township Middle School from June 30th through August 6th from 9 a.m. until 12 p.m. Again, this is part of community education. We don't have a date for the concert, but there generally is a concert, and I would certainly let the board know about that. Resolution 5 is to approve the Galloway Township Middle School drill step team to attend Roland Rogers Elementary School Read Across America Day to read and assist with activities. This was held on March 5th, so administrative approval was granted. Resolution 6 is to approve the Galloway Township Middle School softball and baseball team schedules. And Resolution 7 is to approve the Galloway Township Middle School track schedule, both for this spring.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve items 1 through 7 inclusive under curriculum and instruction, please?
Second.
Any board discussion? Any public comment? Ma'am, roll call, please.
Mr. Carmen?
Yes.
Mrs. Holloway?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Schweiner?
Yes.
Mrs. Evanson?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordero?
Yes.
Mr. Hutter?
Yes. Thank you. Finance and school operations, please.
Yes, I'll turn the meeting over to Mr. Kelly.
Thank you. Item 1 is a resolution to approve submittal of the 2014-15 budget. Be resolved to approve the proposed school budget for the 2014-2015 school year for submission to the county superintendent of schools as follows. The general fund budget of $59,683,434. a local tax levy of $30,454,298, total special revenue fund, $1,328,300, total debt service fund, $1,737,115, with a total tax levy of $839,774. Brings the total budget to $62,748,849 and a total local tax levy of $31,348,072. Be it further resolved to approve a deposit into the Galloway Township Board of Education's capital reserve account for the 2014-2015 school year in the amount of $450,000. Be it further resolved to acknowledge that the 2014-2015 budget, as described above, results in a general fund tax levy of $30,454,298. As required by New Jersey Administrative Code, the 2014-2015 budget includes the use of bank cap. 2014-15 budget includes utilizing bank cap in the amount of $450,000. The need for this bank cap is to offset increases out of district tuition, healthcare, park implementation, and facilities costs. These costs cannot be deferred or incrementally completed over an extended period of time.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve item number 1 under finance and school operations, please?
Second.
Thank you. Any board comment or discussion? Any public comment? May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Days?
Yes.
Mr. Carmen?
Yes.
Mrs. Evanson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hallway?
Yes.
Mr. Schwanger?
Yes.
Mrs. Avery?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordero?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Thank you. Item 2 is a resolution to approve Sunbelt Staffing LLC and add them to the 2013-14 evaluator list for speech therapy services. Speech services are provided at a rate of $69 per hour for 6 hours a day, from March 13, 2014 to through June 30, 2014. The account is listed. Item 3, a resolution to approve transportation contract with the Galloway Park Regional School District for the 13-14 school year. The account and details of the contract are listed. Item 4, a resolution to approve out-of-district travel for professional development activities. For each event, the staff member, date, expenses, and account are listed.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve items 2, 3, and 4 under finance and school operations, please? Thank you. Any board discussion?
Go ahead, you go first.
Okay.
On the speech therapy, it's $2,000 a week that we're spending on that?
It's on an as-needed basis, and this is to fill a leave because we were unable to find a person to fill the leave because it's a shorter term.
Okay, it's as needed, it's not.
Correct.
Okay. That's a lot of money.
No, it's as needed, and normally we would hire an individual to fill this position, but because of the short-term nature of the leave, we're unable to find it.
Thank you.
I have a question on your number 4. What
Yes.
is the benefit for a district for that group policy master class?
Well, that's a good question. Actually, I had questioned that, and we had talked to technology committee also about it. This is a point where we need to elevate our training on a lot of the IT issues that are happening for us to stay on top of it and not outsource it. So Gary, what he does, and it's happened to Gary, he'll come back with this knowledge and then be able to relay it to Fred, Joseph, Tom Ortiz, and not necessarily Gil, but Gil will get a piece of it. It's very, very specific for our servers, and candidly, it's so technical. I just think if we don't do it, we'll be hurting ourselves in the long run, because then we'll have to get another person in here who's a specialist, and then paying them a per diem to fix something that we might have done wrong. So, yeah.
Mrs. Evanson, when I received a request for this, Mr. Kelly and I did quite a bit of homework. We looked into the location, who the trainer was, etc., and we did learn that there are very few people in the country that are experts in what this is known as group policy. And I even went as far as to contact the company who puts out this presenter, who's the guru of group policy, to find out if we waited even 3 months or 6 months, might it be, for example, in New Jersey, where you could perhaps save some of the travel or lodging etc. And I was advised that there is not a session in the area for the foreseeable future. So I want you to know that this request will probably sat on my desk for 2 weeks while we were researching were there any other options, and when we really felt we exhausted that, wrote about it to the board in the bulletin and ultimately put it on the agenda. Because it is a lot of money. I would kind of give an analogy to how much you might pay for a teacher to go for a master's course and think of the college credits. This is kind of the technology's world version of that.
Thank you. Any other board comments? Any public comment? Can I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Holloway?
Yes.
Mr. Days? Mr. Carmen?
Yes.
Mrs. Evanson?
Yeah.
Mr. Schweiner?
Yes.
Mrs. Avery?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordero?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes. Facilities and maintenance, please.
Thank you. Just an update on the SBA grant projects. I did write at the end of the week, and I just want to publicly state it and remind the board again. I did speak with Ted Hopkins at the end of the week, last week. I do have the advertisement from him to place in the paper. We're looking to place the ad this week and be published either at the end of this week or beginning of next week for the 2 roofing projects at Roland Rogers and Smithville. And we're looking to take bids and open them so the project can be awarded at the April 28th meeting. So we are moving forward with those projects. We did have them on hold as there was some question as to whether or not we could move forward with those projects before we had certain documents from the SBA. We do have an SBA grant offer letter at this time, so I've spoken with our auditor and also going to reconfirm with Mr. Capuccio to make sure that the board is able to move forward with this process. But and nothing less, we will advertise for the bid and we will plan on awarding on April 28th.
And we'll still be able to hit the timeline, George, think, by,
Oh, I believe so.
okay.
We're still awarded bids 28 April. We're not going to start until the end of June.
Okay. Thank you. Any public comment on facilities? All right, let's move to community uses.
Just
Oh,
one question.
I'm sorry, Mr. Carmen.
On what we're going to advertise for, are the 2 bids identical?
They are two separate projects. I believe they are not identical. I think there are some specificity between the 2 roofs based on the discussions that I've had with Ted Hopkins. That's beyond my area of expertise. I can be certain, we will receive a copy of the specifications. I do know, speaking with Joe Lafredo, who's a roofing specialist, he also worked with us on the Rand roof. There were some differences between the 2 roofs as far as, I believe, a few locations for air conditioners, air handlers, and heights and things like that, as far as how far off the curb, if that's the right term, that they are in each respective building.
Okay, and are we setting it up so that one contractor will be able to bid on both and be awarded? Are we trying to separate it? How are we handling it?
My understanding is they can be bid separately, but then they also have the opportunity to bid it as a joint whole project.
And as a board, do we have the opportunity to decide, or just low bid wins, we'll close the vote?
I would have to defer to Mr. Capuccio.
Still lowest responsible, either way. And we can join the 2 bids together or not, but you can also separate them to get the cheapest, lowest bid, for, as long as each one's qualified.
Biggest concern going out the door, we have 2 schools going on at the same time, if it's one contractor. If it's a contractor that wins the bid, not able to man it properly, here we go back in September with unfinished roof.
That really can't be it can be a consideration, but it can't be a reason to deny a bid if both contractors, that one contractor is qualified and he submits the lowest bid.
Qualified, what's the term?
That's up to the state of New Jersey and the qualifications they possess, and the engineer architect telling us that they feel no problems with that individual and they're qualified to do the work.
Okay.
With projects, with their size. Yes.
But it leaves caution, because we get rain and things like that, they have other jobs as well.
move forward with the project now to try and get it jumped, because I know a number of districts may not have the necessary local match. So that work may happen in the summer of 2015. I do understand your concern, and I will relay that to Mr. Thomas.
Good question. Any other questions? Okay. Community use of school facilities.
Thank you. Item 1 is GTAA football has requested the use of the GTMS gymnasium hallway for spring football signups on March 8th from 9 a.m. until 12 p.m. and administrative approval was granted. Number 2, GTAA football has requested the use of the Roland Rogers Gymnasium on Tuesday and Thursday evenings beginning Tuesday, March 18th through April 29, 2014 from 6 to 9 p.m. for drill practice. And number 3, Mainland Baptist Church has requested the use of the GTMS Gymnasium on Saturday, March 29, 2014 from 8 a.m. until 3:30 p.m. for a basketball tournament. And you'll see the note that the custodial fee of 1.5 times the prevailing rate applies.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve items 1, 2, and 3 on the community use of school facilities, please? Thank you. Any more discussion?
Real quick under number 2.
Yes.
Do appreciate it, but we are not going to move forward this year. So I'll contact Beth tomorrow to let her know.
So you don't need number 2?
No, do appreciate number 1. Thank you.
Now, well, we need to amend the motion. Can we amend the motion to just have item 1 and 3, please? Who made the motion? Mr. Daisy, will amend the motion? Who seconded? Beverly? Can we amend the motion? Fine, we have amended motion. Now we are going to approve items 1 and 3. I have a first and a second. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Days? Yes. Mrs. Edmondson?
Yes.
Mrs. Holloway?
Yes.
Mr. Carmen?
Yes.
Mrs. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Schwanger?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordero?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes. Thank you. Personnel, please.
Yes, item 1 is a resolution to accept a letter of intent to retire from Edith S. Wagner, social worker at Arthur Green Elementary School, with regret, effective July 1st, 2014. Mrs. Wagner has worked for the Galloway Township Public School District for 17 years, and her dedication and commitment to students and staff are appreciated by our entire school family.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve item number 1 under personnel, please? Thank you. Any more discussion? Any public comment? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Carmen?
Yes.
Mrs. Holloway?
Yes.
Mr. Schwanger?
Yes.
Mrs. Edmondson?
Yes.
Mrs. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Days?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordero?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 2 is to accept a letter of intent to retire from Walter J. Ambro, head custodian at Smithville Elementary School, with regret, effective March 1st, 2014. Mr. Fambro has worked in the Galloway Township Public School District for 18 years, and his dedication and commitment to students and staff are appreciated by our entire school family.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve item number 2 under personnel, please?
Second.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Any public comment? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Carmen?
Yes.
Mrs. Holloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Schwanger?
Yes.
Mr. Days?
Yes.
Mrs. Edmondson?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordero?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 3 is to approve the maternity leave request from Jenny Shaw, classroom assistant at Galloway Township Middle School. The dates, terms, and conditions, and return date are listed. Resolution 4 is to approve the family leave request from Michael Stewart, teacher at Galloway Township Middle School, as follows. Again, the dates, terms, and conditions, and return date are listed. Resolution 5 is to approve Shannon Kaplan as a part-time intervention teacher at Reeds Road Elementary School for the 2013-14 school year, effective March 18, 2014 through June 30, 2014. The salary step rate, which is prorated, degree, and account, are listed. This is a lead position. Resolution 6 is to approve Colleen Donahue as a part-time custodian at Galloway Township Middle School for the 2013-14 school year, effective March 18 through June 30, 2014. The salary step amount, which is prorated, they're all listed, as is the account number. This is also a replacement position. Resolution 7 is to approve Elizabeth Olson as a part-time custodian at Reeds Road Elementary School for the 2013-14 school year, effective March 18 through June 30, 2014. Again, the terms and conditions are listed. This is also a replacement position. Resolution 8 is to approve the following substitute substitute teachers for the 2013-14 school year, effective March 18 through June 30, 2014, pending successful completion of the criminal history review. The various account numbers are listed, as are the name of each individual, whether or not the person is certified, and the daily rate. Resolution 9 is to approve the following substitute secretary for the 2013-14 school year, effective March 18 through June 30, 2014. The hourly rate and account are listed, as is the name of the individual. Resolution 10 is to approve the following substitute custodian for the 2013-14 school year, effective March 18 through June 30, 2014. The hourly rate and account are listed, as are the names of the two individuals. Resolution 11 is to approve the following teacher for the Ask Me If I'm Ready program at Smithville Elementary School, not to exceed 12 hours. The hourly rate and account are listed. This is funded through NCLB Title I, and the name of the teacher is also listed. Resolution 12 is to approve the following staff for the spring 2014 semester of the Southern New Jersey Consortium for the Gifted and Talented. The hourly rate and account are listed, as are the names of the individuals, including substitutes.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve items 3 through 12 inclusive under personnel, please? Thank you. Any board discussion? Any public comment? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Davies?
Yes.
Mrs. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Carmen?
Yes.
Mrs. Evanson?
Yes.
Mrs. Holloway?
Yes.
Mr. Schreiner?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordero?
And you must abstain on number 5 and yes to everything else.
Thank you. Mr. Humphrey?
Yes.
At this time, I'd like to introduce the assistant principal of Ridgewood Elementary School, Mr. Terry O'Connor, and ask him to introduce the newest member of the Reed staff.
Good evening, Dr. DiQuinto and the Board of Education and parents and community members. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce to you Shannon Kaplan, who is our part-time lead physician for early intervention. And we've had Ms. Kaplan in our building for quite some time as a guest teacher. She is requested often, and we're very excited about the skills and her expertise and professionalism that she brings, her work ethic, and all those things that she's going to do so our kids don't miss a beat.
Thank you. Policy, please.
Yes, thank you, and welcome. We have no policies this evening.
Notice meetings.
Yes, next Monday, March 24th, is a regular meeting of the Board of Education, and then the 2 April dates of April 14th and April 28th are listed. As Mr. Kelly mentioned during the presentation, the 28th is also the public budget hearing. All of those meetings are here in the middle school cafeteria at 7 p.m. Under special events, we have a number of very exciting things. If you did not have the chance to attend Les Mis this past weekend, you do have 2 more chances on Friday and Saturday evening. This Saturday morning is the Tri-County Spelling Bee here at GTMS. We are again the host this year. I also learned, and did not learn this after we produced the agenda, that the Stockton Science Fair is also this Saturday at Stockton. The District Band Festival, mark your calendars for March 26th. People of the Year, run by the Education Foundation, is April 4th. GTMS will be doing its production of The Little Mermaid on April 10th, 11th, and 12th. And the Smithville School Pasta Dinner and Basket Raffle is May 2nd.
Thank you. Is there any public comment at this time? All right, let's go around the board with some old business. All right, and tonight let's start with roads. Okay, road. Beverly? Hey.
Your soda bread was amazing. It was an executive session, I didn't know if we were allowed to mention it. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm working on with soda bread, thank you.
Yes.
Madeline?
Right now, before we amend the calendar, which I know we're not doing tonight, when is the last day of school? Rich over here is trying to.
New business.
Yeah, we're going to get to new business. That's the,
That's next.
That's next, okay, I have nothing now.
okay. Rich?
You scared me.
George? Okay. Suzette? Okay. All right, I'm going to break everybody's bubble. Let's discuss Smithville Gym Show. I attended it, and Madeline attended it. Outstanding job. For the record, Anna Schnauer should be recognized, and the entire Smithville staff are doing a tremendous job. I understand this is going to be Anna's last hurrah, so to say. And but I do want it on record that I think the entire school does an outstanding job with the gym show. Budget committee meetings. Historically, we meet in groups of 4 to discuss the budget, and I know some people prefer days, some people prefer nights. So what I wanted to do is try to get a sense right now who prefers days and who prefers nights, not pulling out calendars of when, but let's just try to build our two teams. Okay, and Madeline, is your preference day or night?
Right.
Night. Richard?
Night.
Night. David?
Night.
Night.
Well, what's night and day? Give me some time. I mean, really, daylight savings time in effect. You know, say 4 o'clock daytime, you say 4 o'clock.
5 o'clock is here.
Okay, well,
5 day constitution.
5 or later.
Fire later night?
Yeah.
Night it is.
Okay. Beverly?
Day.
Bruce? Will you leave it? Well, just by count, I guess I will do that. George? I thought I had George. I'm sorry.
I know I'm a revenant anymore.
Well, which one would you like, George?
Doesn't really make a matter, but I just shouldn't have day.
Okay. All right, I'll be on, yeah, I can do either, but we'll make it work. Okay. And then I'll leave it up to the superintendent to email some dates to everybody and
To decide whether
do you?
Superintendent will take care of
Yes, not to confuse everybody.
what do they
But what we do is the board, so the public is understanding, we break down to 2 committees of 4 members each. Since one of our members is in Florida, we can do this legally, where we'll talk about the budget in small groups. And that's exactly what we do, talk about it in small groups, as opposed to trying to get all 9 of us together to discuss it. It's a lot easier when we break into groups of 4. So, with that being said, new business, Dr. Annette C.G. Aquinto, Superintendent of Schools from Galloway Township. Please explain to us your method of madness for the calendar this year.
Madness would be the word, President Hubbard. Well, when the agenda went home on Friday, the calendar was going to reduce spring break, where we would be opened for an early dismissal day on Thursday, the 17th of April, closed on Friday, the 18th, and then opened on Monday, the 21st. I would like to keep that, despite the fact that we were closed today. And as much as it pains me to say so, make the last day of school Monday, June 23rd, as an early dismissal day. Now, the one thing I don't know at this moment is when this calendar that you have in front of you was set, Apsigami's graduation was on Wednesday, the 18th, and we were doing early dismissal days on the 18th, 19th, and 20th of June. Should Apsigami move graduation to the 19th,
Well, they will, right?
which I'm anticipating that they will, but I don't know that officially, the 18th would go back to being a full day, and the 19th, 20th, and 23rd would be early dismissal days. Well, Mr. Cordero, I do not believe that it would be appropriate to take Friday, April 18th, and the only other day we are closed is Memorial Day, and I am not going to sit here in Atlantic County and recommend that we open on Memorial Day. As much as I hate going to June 23rd.
Should we throw a Saturday in? Do I have to say on Saturday?
Mr. Carmen, I will tell you, when I was at County Roundtable, although there are some districts that are discussing that, we were advised that the only way that you should be looking at school on a Saturday is if you have run out of other days in June. In large part, because attendance tends to be very poor on Saturdays, both difficulty on the staff end as well as students. Additionally, any day that I can put before ask, and with the park pilot coming up, we are better off. So President Hubbard, if the board votes what I just explained, I'll wait to get the confirmation from Absegami tomorrow, and then actually get the calendar out to the public and to the staff.
Perfect. Can I have a motion to approve the revised calendar for 2013-2014 for our students and staff, please?
So moved.
Second. Okay. Any discussion? Any public comment? All right. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Carmen?
Yes.
Mr. Schweiner?
Yes.
Mrs. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Gates?
Yes.
Mrs. Evanson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hallway?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordero?
Yes.
And Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other reason to return back to executive session? Okay. All right. At this time, before I close the meeting, is there anyone here who has something to bring forth to this Board of Education? This is a public comment.
Can I get a report for consideration real quick?
Certainly.
If it was brought to my attention by 3 people that participate with Galloway basketball, and they asked if there's any way on their Saturdays that the board would be able to absorb the cost of custodian for consideration for the future. Obviously, that doesn't have to be discussed tonight, just food for thought. They're struggling for funds, and 3 parents said something to me, and they found it shocking, since it's all Galloway kids, and I said, you can either come to the board, or I'd be happy to state your request, and so they.
Again, if I might speak to President Powell, why don't some people come to Powell meeting and approach us?
Mr. Days, I kind of was going to ask you that later on this evening.
Because it's been discussed at many Powell meetings. That's a simple reason for that. And that's why they have a problem with seeing contact these agents board of Powell.
I was at school the other day, somebody found out I was a board member, and I said, well, Mr. Days is also a board member. And they said, well, we don't go to the meetings.
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly. There's 7 or 8 people at a Powell meeting. And these people want to run everything, but they don't want to be involved.
absolutely.
If you pass everyone to that, please.
We've discussed this
That's been discussed for years.
extensively for
Unfortunately.
this board and come to the decision that what we have is what we have due to our finances.
I should note,
Over the years, I know some people weren't here, we went nights for hours here arguing this thing.
Yes, it's been discussed with you.
Yes,
I should note that if the school is already opened,
Right.
it's free.
any outside organization is not charged. It's only if we're bringing in the custodian solely for the purpose of that group
Correct.
that the group is charged. Because otherwise, the board would have to absorb the cost. And we do not, and I need to say this, there are a lot of districts that charge nonprofit groups money just to use the building, plus the custodial fee. And they are very high costs. And so what I have been told, and Mrs. Hilferty, who oversees our community use of school facilities, has actually presented Mr. Kelly and myself with extensive documentation of fees that every other school district in Atlantic County charges groups just to use the building, and then they charge them the custodial fee on top of that. So one of the things I think groups need to realize is we don't prorate, oh, we had to turn the lights on or run the air conditioning or the heat or whatever. They only get charged exactly the extra money we need to put out in terms of the custodian. I don't want that to be lost.
No, like I said, just a message.
Thank you. Anything else to come before this Board of Education this evening? Hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? The ayes have it. Good night. Good safe night.